Last day for the Phils here in South Florida. In fact, it's the last day for the Phillies in Florida until spring training in Clearwater in 2016. The Phillies do face the Marlins in one more series at the end of the year in Philadelphia. But tonight they could put a stamp on the season series in Game 3 of this set. And speaking of the season series, the Phils 9-6 so far against the Marlins. They've scored just 4 more runs, but they've hit 7 more home runs. Pitching-wise, the Phillies' bullpen has been way better than the Marlins' bullpen. One of the reasons why they've had success in this season series. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy, joined by Ben Davis. We talk about the Phillies' bullpen, and Ken Giles has been the biggest bright spot for the Phils from a pitching standpoint in 2015. Now, when the Phillies broke camp in Clearwater, they thought, well, we don't have to really worry about the bullpen because it was so good at the end of 2014.
It really was. A lot of optimism coming out of spring training. We knew at the back end how good that was going to be with Jonathan Papelbon, Kenny Giles being that bridge to get the ball to Paps, but it really hasn't worked out that way. Take a look at some of these numbers. A lot of walks, which, you know, Tom, I don't like the walks. The strikeouts are okay, but the opponent average, 265, it's just entirely too high.
Well, the first half of the season, the walks certainly helped. So the Phillies revamped their bullpen. They got rid of Jonathan Papelbon. They got rid of Jake Deacon. They brought in guys like Dalier Hinojosa. And Pete Mackanin loves Hinojosa because of his fastball and because of his splits.
You're right. He's got 2 out pitches, and he's really a guy that the Boston Red Sox gave up on. I'm a big fan of Colton Murray. Little rough start to go, but he is another guy that has 2 out pitches. Mid-90s fastball and a big overhand curveball. You just don't see that overhand curveball anymore. Colton Murray has it. I really like the upside for Colton.
All right, another couple guys, Luis Garcia being one, Genmar Gomez being the other, to help Ken Giles in 2016. They got to do a little tinkering when they come back for 2016.
A little bit of tinkering, but I wouldn't say so much for Genmar Gomez. But Luis Garcia, his stuff is too good to get hit around the way he does. Very inconsistent with his slider. Guy throws 97, 98 with a little bit of cut. He shouldn't be getting hit around the way that he does.
All right, tonight the Phillies will face former Phil prospect Jared Cozart, who's making his 3rd start against the Phillies. Now, so far this year, the month of April was sound, a 2.49 ERA. But then in May, 3 starts, an ERA just under 7. Went on the disabled list. They eventually found that he had a problem in his inner ear. They labeled it as vertigo, so he missed a good part of the season.
He did. He's got a big arm. The guy has a really big arm. Very good above-average fastball. Take a look at the start against the Fighting Phils back in April. Breaking ball is very good. He really likes to use his fastball to set up that breaking ball. But you look at a lot of these pitches, where are they? They're down, down, down. That's where a pitcher wants to live. He had a lot of success that game, and I would expect him to stay pretty much with the same game plan against these Phils tonight.
All right, since coming back the 2nd time from the disabled list, he has found his niche. He's hoping that he can pitch tonight the way he pitched against the Phillies back in April, where that fastball was down in the strike zone and he was getting a lot of ground ball out. So tonight it's Game 3 of this series. The Phils and the Marlins. Cozart making his 12th start here in 2015. Alec Asher, well, he's hoping to stop a losing streak to begin his big league career. 0-4 with a 9.78 ERA. Well, D. Gordon certainly helped the Marlins last night, not only with a great defensive play, but it was his game-winning double that led them to a victory in extra innings. We'll go to the Comcast Sportsnet studios when we return. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Toyota. Where will Toyota take you? Visit buyattoyota.com to find out. Toyota, let's go places. By Citizens Bank, one deposit checking. Keeping things simple is helping you bank better. By Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. And by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Learn more at IBX.com. His 3-game series. Pete Mackanin chatting with Larry Boa. They've got his lineup all set to go. Let's take a look at it. It's brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Galvis, Bogusevic, and Herrera, followed by Darren Ruff, Andres Blanco, and Cody Asche. And the bottom third of Cameron Rupp, Aaron Altair drops to the number 8 spot, and Alec Asher. They will face former Phillies prospect Jared Cozart, who the Phillies selected in the 38th round in 2008. He's 2-4 this year with an ERA of 4.43, facing some players for the third time this year that he saw Ben as teammates early on in his professional career. In fact, his former manager, Dusty Wappen, is in the dugout for the Phils watching tonight's ball game.
Hard to believe. He probably never thought he'd be in this situation facing his ex-teammates, but take a look at Jared Cozart, 93-96. He does have a big arm, loves pitching here at Marlins Park. He is 0-2 this year, but does have a 1.93 ERA.
Freddie Galvis is ready to go. There's Dusty watching tonight's ball game. He'll be with the club for the rest of the season. Freddie Galvis hitting .263 with 7 home runs, 44 runs batted in, 4 for 10 in this series so far. And he whacks the first pitch into right field, a base hit.
There goes a no-hitter.
Well, last night it took until Darren Ruff singled to lead off the 5th inning to end the perfect game opportunity. Phils will take this, so they have a base runner, and Brian Bogusevic will come up. Cozart, 25 years old. This is his 3rd organization. Mentioned the Phillies drafted him in the 38th round in 08. They traded him to the Astros. He was part of the Hunter Pence trade. And then surprisingly, the Astros traded him here to the Marlins. I say surprisingly because he was pitching pretty well for Houston. But there were other issues that he had to deal with and they had to deal with him. Plus, they got a couple pretty good players in return for him. Outside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Bogusevic hitting .294 here in the big leagues with a home run and 3 runs batted in, making his 9th start. Way outside, 2-1. The Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Harry Pronger of Bluebell. Phillies hit a home run in today's ball game, then Harry will win $100.
Good luck, Harry.
I should email Wheels and see if he knows Harry.
He just might.
Outside, 3-1. Well, good spot now for Bogusevic. Ahead 3 balls, 1 strike. Bogusevic gives the inside part of the plate. He's off the plate a little bit. And he takes a pretty healthy hack at a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, and it's 3-2.
Good swing there by Brian. 3-1 count. You know you're going to get challenged, especially this early in the ballgame.
So he's mid-range right there, Ben, in the batter's box. A lot of times in this day and age, you see players, they're closer to the plate.
I think he's very off the plate.
Back toward the middle, off the glove of Cozart. Gordon has it on the bare hand, and he throws out Bogusevic. That may have been a double play if he had let it go. Instead, it's 1-4-3, and the Phillies have a runner at second base.
Instincts take over there, and there's nothing you can do as a pitcher. Balls hit back at you, your first instinct is go and get it.
Yeah, he's frustrated with himself. I think A, because he didn't grab it, but B, that he knows now that D. Gordon probably would have gotten there.
Yeah, I think so. And ball had some funny spin on it. You see D had to pick it up with his bare hand. Brian Bogusevic gets down the line very well. Big stolen base last night in the game, did Brian. Was the go ahead run for a minute for the Phils.
Here's Odubel Herrera, who takes high. Odubel 2 for 9 in the series. One ball, no strikes to the Phillies center fielder, who has 16 hits this year against the Marlins. softly to the left side. This is going to be a tough play for Rojas on the run. Throws him out. Over to third base goes Galvis. So the Phillies have hit one ball out of the infield. That was Galvis' single. Last two guys, though, have grounded out. Well, here's the journey for Jared Cozart. He went with Jonathan Singleton, who just got called up by the Astros, by the way, to the Astros. Domingo Santana is now with the Brewers for Hunter Pence, then traded here to Miami. And the Astros got Jake Marisnick, Colin Moran, Francis Martes, and a 2015 competitive balance pick. Moran is playing pretty well, or played pretty well this year in the minor leagues. He hit .306 with 9 home runs. A third baseman for the Astros. Darren Ruff grounds one toward the middle. Diving stop. Rojas to his feet, throws him out, and the side is retired. Well, his fielding percentage has been perfect since filling in for Adeiny Echeverria, and he made a play that Adeiny Echeverria would be proud of to end this inning. Phillies threatened in the top of the first, do not score. We'll be back with the bottom of the first. Brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Gordon, Suzuki, and Yelich, followed by Bohr. Marcelo Ozuna back in center field, and Derek Dietrich over at third base. JT Realmuto catches for the third straight day. Miguel Rojas, the shortstop, bats eighth, and Jared Cozart will bat ninth. And they will face Alec Asher. Asher looking for his first big league win. Well, Ben, unlike Jared Eichhoff, Asher's major league start has not gone all that well with an 0-4 record. 9.78 ERA, and the first pitch he delivers is a strike.
Look at the scouting report for Alec Asher. 91.5 is where he'll sit with that fastball. 4-pitch pitcher, and really does a good job of keeping the average pitches per inning down there at 16.8.
I think we're all in agreement. You watch him pitch as he is facing D. Gordon here. He does a fantastic job of getting to 2 strikes, and then it's just figuring out how to put a guy away. That one's grounded towards second. Blanco quickly gets to it, one away. Now, I think the easy way to look at it is that he has to come up with a put away pitch.
Yes.
Or, maybe somehow make location a priority a little bit more with 2 strikes.
It doesn't have to be so much a put away pitch, meaning a strikeout pitch, but a pitch that you can throw when you have a hitter on the ropes that you can either induce a ground ball or get a fly ball. Just something that he can really listen. The hitter knows you're throwing it. He knows you're throwing it, and still get an out.
Here's Ichiro, and he foul tips the first pitch. It's no balls and 1 strike. Well, Pete Buchanan at the end of this year and Bob McClure will sit down with each individual player. They've already started that, and I'm sure that's one of the things they'll talk to Alec Asher about, and they'll probably help him along with something like that too.
They definitely will, but ultimately, though, it has to come from him being willing either to develop another pitch or just improve the pitches that he already has. Maybe throw a split finger.
Yeah.
He's a big guy, over the top guy. Get a good tumbling action like a split finger. He might find some success.
Here's the 1-2 pitch to Ichiro in the dirt, and it's 2-2. He certainly has enough fastball. That one right there in the dirt was at 95.
I'd love for Alec to get that scorecard tonight.
Which means he'd walk away with his first major league victory.
That's it. Have everybody sign it.
That one slapped to center, and Odubel Herrera plays him perfectly. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, Orioles and the Nationals are a final. Orioles win it 5-4. Matt Wieters, like Ben Davis, a very tall catcher, a home run, 2 RBIs. That means the magic number for the Mets to clinch is down to 4. So if they win tonight, they'll go into this weekend's games needing a combination of 3 wins or 3 losses by the Nationals to clinch the National League East.
I guess you can't say it's over, but it's getting close.
Yeah, it's getting there. Christian Yelich, the batter, and Yelich breaks his bat and will get a hit out of it. A bloop to center field. It's 2-out single. And that's just his second hit in this series.
It's like Yelich just jammed himself. This ball pretty much center cut. Ball was down. Not a terrible pitch. It was down, but I don't know if he really kind of went after that ball and jammed himself, but that bat exploded. The location of this pitch, and it's not in. I mean, like I said, that's pretty much, if anything, it's off the end of the bat.
Can't even nail that one back together for BP or anything. Justin Bour will stand in. Bour 1 for 9 in the series. The one, though, is a home run. We enter the ballpark down the right field line where we passed that yellow smokestack, or that yellow stack. I'm not sure what it is. It might just be a pylon to hold up the building. And you mentioned today as we're walking in, you sat there, and the concourse is right behind that yellow piping. You said, man, Cody Ashley's ball and Justin Bour's ball, it probably came out, hit here, and could have hit the people behind us.
And there's folks that work down there, security, that you have to walk through security to get into the building, and they're in jeopardy.
Off the end of the bat, over to third. Justin Bour is such a big guy. He hit one of the longer home runs you'll see, but he's also grounded out 3 times in this series, and they've been some of the softest ground outs you'll ever see for a guy that size. We'll head to the second. Against the Nationals. They'll face the New York Mets Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. All 3 games are at 7:05. Tickets can be purchased anytime by going to Phillies.com. My hope is that that young lady gets a foul ball hit into her direction and she can catch it with that glove.
It'd be awesome.
It would be great. Andres Blanco will lead it off, and Blanco takes a strike, and it's 0-1. Andres getting another chance to start. Hitting .293 with 5 home runs. See what he's done over his last 42 games. Breaking ball, and it's 0-2. Way outside. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, Cole Hamels picked up his 11th victory of the season today. He went 6 strong innings, and the Rangers continued to whittle down their magic number to clinch the West, and they defeated the A's 8-1. Here's Rojas behind the second base bag, 1 away.
I like this Rojas. Gets a lot of balls out there. Good strong arm. Soft hands. Very, very soft hands. He can get to this ball. Watch how he just works from the ground up. Fires a bullet across the board at first base. Take a lot of ground balls.
Cody Ashe stands in. Ashe 4 for 14 on this road trip, and it's a fastball, 0-1.
I would say that this infield takes more ground balls than any other team that I've seen this year during batting practice. A lot of guys will take, a certain number. They take ground balls the entire batting practice.
I think part of it is Perry Hill, their infield coach and their first base coach. He does a lot of stuff individually, but then of course does a lot of the stuff from a team standpoint. That ball is hit toward right field. It went toward the end of the bat, so Ichiro will have a play on it. And there are 2 outs.
Yeah, that man can hit some fungos. He's got it down.
Well, he has so many different drills that he'll do during the course of a season and during the course of batting practice too, to enhance the quickness of the infielders.
Always stretching footwork.
Cameron Rupp is the batter. Rupp has not played in the series. Swings at the first pitch, and Ichiro over toward the corner. Has room, and it's a very fast inning for Cozart. 1, 2, 3 go the Phils. We'll head to the bottom of the second here in South Florida. Eagles' upcoming game against the Jets. The best way to start your day is with breakfast on Broad. Weekday mornings over on the Comcast Network. Bottom of the second inning. Marcell Ozuna will lead it off. It'll be Ozuna, Derek Dietrich, JT Realmuto. Walking on the concourse, there were a number of Phillies fans who made their way here to South Florida to see their ball club. Phillies so far have split the 2 games. Trying to win the series with a victory here today. And also pick up their 10th win in the season series.
Tom, I have to give you credit. Today was the first time that I have not heard you say, "Open the roof." So congratulations, you're turning the page. It's good to see.
Well, I got a tweet earlier today at about 1 o'clock as Ozuna fouls that one down the right field line, telling me that the roof was going to be closed for this evening. So I figured it was wasted energy.
I wonder how much energy it takes to open this thing.
Opens quickly.
Oh,
that one went up and in, and I think got a piece of Ozuna. It sounded like it got a piece of something, and they will award him first base. So he is aboard to start this second inning. Hand.
Yep.
Yeah. Just got that right hand. His fingers moved as you saw the ball graze past it.
Much like the pitch that Jonathan Papelbon threw Manny Machado last night.
Which one? First one or the second one?
They're both close, but more like the second one. That
the
actually
first
hit him.
one, yeah, the first one I thought, was up and in, but the second one was way in.
Yes.
Derek Dietrich stands in. He's 4 for 9 in the series, and he swings and fouls the first pitch off. Well, because of that, Papelbon was ejected from the game, and his teammate Bryce Harper didn't seem all that happy about it after the game that Papelbon hit Machado. Well, we'll have plenty of time to think about it, it seems, during the offseason. Outside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Harper said, the line, this is tired, getting tired?
Getting tired, guys getting hit after they hit home runs.
He said he hit a home run to put his team ahead, and then he gets hit his next time up. He said it's getting tired.
Foul ball. Now, he also alluded to the fact that he was going to get hit today because of it. That did not happen.
I think that would be an issue that would be resolved within, meaning amongst the Nationals, maybe just between Bryce Harper and Jonathan Papelbon.
One ball and 2 strikes to Derek Dietrich. Up and in, 2-2.
The best teams, I think, that have the best camaraderie are with you're with your teammates more than you are with your family. You're with these guys for 7.5 months, basically. And it's not going to be just hunky-dory all the time. You're going to have issues. And the good teams are the ones that have those issues, resolve the issues, and don't hold any grudges against your teammates.
That one's popped up and out of play. Well, there's a little bit more than a week left in the regular season, so I don't know if there's a lot of things going on in that Nationals clubhouse. They're going to have a lot of things to resolve at the end of the year, and it may not be with the current coaching staff involved.
Look at Pete McCann, the way he handled the situation with Odubel. No hard feelings. He just let Odubel know it's not going to happen on my ball club.
Count is 2-2 to Derek Dietrich, and he fouls another one off. And it remains 2 balls, 2 strikes.
And this is what we're talking about right here. He needs an out pitch. Too many foul balls. Getting that pitch count up there. You have to have that pitch you can go to automatically. Boom. I'm either going to strike you out or you're going to roll the ball over.
Yeah, he's up to 22 pitches, which isn't overwhelming at this point. As time is called, Dietrich asks for time. Home plate umpire is Mike Winters. Mike Malinsky is over at first base. Mark Wagner at second. Carlos Torres around at third. Quick toss over. Ozuna is back. Toyota Major League Scoreboard. Chris Heisey's grand slam has helped the Dodgers defeat the Diamondbacks 6-3. Last night it was Chase Utley who helped the Dodgers in their victory over the Diamondbacks.
Kershaw get that win?
Kershaw, he did get that win. He's now 15-7 as Ozuna is back.
It's hard for me to believe that you could have the numbers that Clayton Kershaw has this year and only have 15 wins. How's that possible?
Well, lack of run support in some of those games. Another foul ball. That time he went with a slider. And it remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. Well, we talked about that quite often with Cole Hamels when he was pitching for the Phillies. Two and 2. In the dirt, and it's 3 balls and 2 strikes. Today's ball game is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button on your television or change the language through the menu on your cable box.
See.
This will be the 9th pitch of the at bat. 5 foul balls. Ozuna goes, pitches in the air to left field. Going back on it is Altair. Looks like he has it sized up. Back to first base, Ozuna. And one away, and JT Realmuto is coming up. And with that, Major League Baseball has embarked on a very interesting initiative that may expand as the years go on. But for the final couple weeks of the regular season, Murph, they're giving each team an opportunity to use the internet to help their cause in scouting.
Well, they are embracing technology. That is exactly what they're doing, Tom. Major League Baseball has decided that they are now providing 4 iPads to each dugout for the teams to use. However, they are not allowed to connect to any kind of network or anything like that. This is how it works. Each team gets the 4 iPads and they stay in the ballpark. They don't travel with the teams. When you arrive at the ballpark, your video department, Kevin Camasholi and Mark Sismundo and then Chris Cashman, the guys for the Phillies, upload all the reports that the Phillies coaches use all the time. They upload them, and then Major League Baseball then takes that and downloads them onto the iPads. Then they deliver the iPads to Kevin Camasholi here in the ballpark for the Phillies. He then delivers them to the coaches. So they are tamper-proof. They're not allowed to connect to the internet. They're not allowed to do anything other than the things that they are already doing. It really is just a way to streamline the reports that all the teams are using anyway. And the way it works on the iPad, each of the coaches has their own file. So Steve Henderson would have his own hitting file, and in all the reports that Henderson would use to, show his pitcher, or show his hitters, the tendencies of the pitchers would be on the iPad. Same with Bob McClure. There you see the Marlins are using it right now. Dan Jennings is using his iPad right this second. So that's how it's working right now. And as you mentioned, really just a pilot program that Major League Baseball is testing out over the final couple weeks. All Major League Baseball teams are allowed to use them. We are told that not all of them have embraced it quite yet, but the Phillies are one of the teams that is using.
Yeah, you can use your normal books if you want to. Everybody has those notebooks that we see all the time that have 1 million pages of scouting reports in it. But as Murph said, this will streamline it. And you think about some of the numbers that are available around baseball and how easy it is. I mean, we have a lot of our stuff, whether it be on your Surface Pro, on my iPad. That's a little easier than carrying around the media guides and everything all the time, or the day-to-day statistical information. It makes it a lot easier. Now, interesting enough, Larry Bowa had it out yesterday, was looking at it, and Casey McGee somehow got a baseball over to the Phillies dugout, and the bat boy gave the baseball to Bowa. Bowa said, "What's this?" He said, gave it to him, and there was a note on it from Casey McGee. Said, "I can't believe I'm witnessing the day that you're using a computer in the dugout."
I think that was the general feeling with all of us. I asked Larry about using the iPad. I asked him yesterday about the first day, because they implemented it 2 days ago, and the first day here in Miami. And Larry said, it's really not all that different. If you know how to use an iPad, which these guys all do, they're able to get to their reports just a little bit quicker, a little bit cleaner, and that's the way it is. He did say at one point they couldn't get it to work until about the 4th inning, and he was going to throw it against the wall. He did not do that, which was a good thing. but you know how technology can be. It's great when it works, but if it's not working, it can be so frustrating. So it'll be interesting to see where Major League Baseball takes it from here. But right now, baby steps as they work their way into technology in the dugout.
Yeah, and those iPads, and we saw them today, those iPads are protected. I mean, there's some heavy protection on those iPads, so they do not, if they're getting thrown against the wall, break at all or dropped.
Yeah, and also we should point it so they can't be tampered with, so that you cannot connect to any kind of outside network during the game. That's a big part of what they're trying to do right now.
1-2 pitch is hit off the end of the bat to the right side. Charging is Blanco. He's with it, and the side is retired. So Ozuna hit by a pitch to start the inning, but he's left in scoring position. We'll move to the top of the 3rd here in South Florida with the Phillies and the Marlins scoreless. On the Phillies.com, go to the fan section for all the information. Please submit your answer on the subject line. Ben, shield your eyes. The question is,
why is the fanatic streaky?
I don't know. Which Marlins pitcher holds the single-season Marlins record for most appearances with 78 in 2002? It's a lot of appearances, Ben Davis. 78.
I don't think it's a starter, Tom.
I think you're right on with that. Answer will be revealed in just a little bit.
78.
78. 78.
Whoever it is, and I have a good idea who it would be.
Do you really?
Every time that phone would ring, I'd be getting up. 78 appearances.
Well, you'd certainly hear it if you were here at Marlins Park. Here is Aaron Altair to lead it off, and Altair takes low, 1 ball, no strikes. Well, we talk about iPads. I mean, we all use our iPhone, the mini iPad, the big iPad, the Surface Pro.
The new Surface Pro 3
computer. I mean, we have got, I was just thinking about it. In a matter of the last 3 minutes, I've been on the iPad. I've been utilizing my iPhone. I've got the mini. So for the iPad, I was looking at Jared Cozart's baseball, his statistics on Baseball Reference, using baseballreference.com. On the iPhone, I was looking at Jared Cozart's numbers in Bloomberg Sports. They provide us with a lot of numbers. And the mini iPad we were using for our drop-ins for the Jeep Stump the Fans trivia question. It's going to come to the point where we're not going to need any paper.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked up Clayton Kershaw's numbers for this year.
Yeah.
And then so I scroll between, I went on that, and then I go back to the Philly Miami on MLB.com.
Just like everybody else at home, they're utilizing their stuff for everything. It's the same thing here. I think back to the years ago when we first started in this business, how much paper we had in front of us and no computers in front of us. Asher will try to bunt. It's been a challenge for him, and he takes low. There's
that inside edge, which you see right there. I've been out of the big leagues for quite a few years, and that was really starting to get, and see all the highlighters right there with it, that was really starting to be in vogue for the ball clubs, and they help out a lot.
Runner goes. The bunt was missed, and Altair is out at second base. Altair did not get a very good jump, and he's thrown out trying to steal by Real Muto. That's kind of an oddity right there.
You're right. It wasn't the best jump. Cozart very quick to the plate. You see him look in to make sure what was going on with it, and see Aaron clearly out. Rojas applies the tag.
2 balls and 1 strike to Asher here in the third, and he grounds it foul. Still looking for his first big league hit. He's 0 for 4. He's taking some pretty good swings with these last couple pitches. And a line drive base hit it to left field, his first major league hit. Alec Asher is aboard with 1 man down here in the top of the third.
How about a little smile? Give me a smile, Alec.
Well, we mentioned that he was taking some pretty good swings. That's a great rip right there.
Ball came off hot. Fastball right down the middle. Good separation. Nice little leg kick. Laces the ball to left field.
And now Freddie Galvis, who singled his first time up against Cozart. Fastball, and it's 0-1.
Now, if you could go interview Alec right now at first base and ask him what feels better, striking someone out or getting that base hit, I guarantee he'd say that base hit. Although a strikeout depends on the situation.
I was going to say, I mean, he's going to have many more strikeouts than hits during his career.
Nothing better than getting a knock.
It's from an offensive-minded guy. Turned pitcher.
Momentarily.
Two balls and 1 strike. Fortunately for Alec Asher, nobody on the Marlins was going to hold that ball hostage, like D. Gordon threatened to do with Sweeney's home run, first major league home run last time we were here.
Yeah.
And Freddie Galvis hits Alec Asher. The ball's picked up by Gordon. The ball is dead once it hits the base runner. Well, he certainly worked on his hitting. Now he's got to work on his base running. The put out goes to the second baseman. Galvis does get a hit out of it. Look out. Hopefully he's okay. That ball hit him right in the calf.
The ball was hit pretty hard. I'm just not accustomed to being out on the field and running the bases. Can't fault him for that.
That ball hit him square on the calf, so hopefully it does not hamper him. 1 ball, no strikes to Bogusevic.
So I'm sensing a trend here. First base hit. Now we're looking for that first W.
Oh, okay.
Good night.
How about his first home run?
Don't push it, Tom.
Toyota Major League Scoreboard. The Pirates have defeated the Rockies 5-4. Pirates clinched a playoff spot already. Joe Blanton, big Joe Blanton got the win. He's 7-2. Not as big as he used to be.
Not big anymore.
He's had himself a very nice season. He was with the Royals to start the year. Every chance to make the postseason with them, of course. But then they needed the roster space, so he wound up with Pittsburgh. And he's going to go to the postseason with the Pirates. Mark Melanson, by the way, picked up his 50th save in that game.
Man. I think Brian's really picking the ball up off of Jared Cozart. He has a couple swings awfully late. Maybe he's looking for that breaking ball, but he has 2 pitches were fastballs, and he was very tardy.
That fastball misses outside and low, and it runs the count even 2-2.
Ball almost looked like it had a cut action on it, breaking back towards the plate. Like he's slowing his motion up on those off-speed pitches.
You would know that better than I would.
I know he did it to Freddie Galvis early on a changeup. He slowed everything down.
Swing and a miss. Well, if he does, Bogusevic didn't pick it up. It did look like he was a little slower, though, with his motion before he let it go. Alec Asher got his first major league hit. He's still searching for his first major league win. And small fry for just $2.50. McDonald's, I'm loving it. And by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop Nissan.com. Along with Ben Davis and Greg Murphy and a bunch of fish, I'm Tom McCarthy from Marlins Park as we go to the bottom of the third. Our last time here. Phillies will see the Marlins the final weekend of the regular season. The fish do stay during the off season, just so you know, Ben.
That's my next question.
Here is Jared Cozart, 1 for 16 this year. Fastball, and it's 0-1. Now, do they stay for the entire offseason? That I don't know, but they will stay for at least the first part of the offseason. Slowly out to shortstop. Galvis is up with it. And one away.
Can you call them snowfish?
You can call them anything you want. Call them anything you want. It's now time for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use the hashtag PhillyPhoto.strongfan, and you just might see yourself, Ben Davis, in an upcoming broadcast. Brought to you by T-Mobile. One away, and Here's D. Gordon, who grounded out his first time up. He's 0 for 1. Fastball, and it's 0-1. Gordon is at .331 for the season. Good location on that off-speed pitch, and it's now 1 ball and 2 strikes. Calf does not seem to be bothering Jared Cozart. And a strike 3 called right on the inside part of the plate. Now that's what we're talking about. I mean, he has the stuff to do it, and if it's not finding another pitch, which he probably does need to do, if he can just locate the stuff he has, and he located right here.
It's just a great pitch.
Yep.
Go ahead and swing at it, D, because you're not going to do anything with it. Might as well take it.
First strikeout for Asher, and Ichiro 0 for 1, lined out his first time up to center. and 2. Ichiro making his 86th start of the year. He not only is on the doorstep of 3,000 hits, which hopefully he'll get next year, but he's also 2 stolen bases away from 500 for his career. He won't get that opportunity here as he grounds out. Marlins go down in order. We've played our first 3. Time for the top of the 4th, and it's time for Odubel to lead things off for the Phils when we get back. Time now to revisit our Nissan keys to tonight's ball game. Ben?
So far so good for Alec Asher. Big key for me was finish hitters off, and he's done a better job of that this evening. And then Odubel, take your hits to left field. As he strides to the plate, seems like he's getting out and around a few balls. There's a lot of hits on the left side of that diamond, and he found that to be the case earlier in the season. I'd like to see him get back to that a little bit more.
Yeah, I thought when his first at bat, when he started going towards the shortstop, that he was going to adhere to what you wanted him to do, but it wasn't hit hard enough. First pitch from Cozart is a breaking ball, and it's 1 ball and no strikes. Cozart, as we mentioned, spent time on the disabled list this year. It wasn't an arm injury, it wasn't a leg injury. he had an issue with his inner ear. In fact, when he first started having issues, he told the Marlins that he got up out of bed one day and just fell down. And they had him checked out. They said everything was fine. There were no issues for him. And he said, all right. So he started throwing again, but he still had the balance issues. Marlins said, well, the doctors checked you out. You're okay. He decided to go to a specialist back home in Texas. And that specialist came up with an inner ear issue where he had a nerve in his inner ear that was being pressed on that was causing him to have these vertigo issues. So they shut him down. And that brings us to our Geico quote of the day. Dan Jennings on Cozart's return. His stuff is there. The velocity is there. The action on the pitches are there. Now it's just a matter of building up the stamina and executing it in the games. Well, it is true. He's made 3 starts in September. He's 1-0 with an ERA of under 2. And the Marlins have won all 3 of his starts so far.
Him out there talking to himself.
He does that.
Had a game early in the year here that he was coasting, ran into a wall, got yanked from the game, and showed his disapproval down in the dugout.
Darren Ruff fouls that one. It's 1-1. Yeah, that did not go over well following the game, but they ironed it all out. I mentioned that Dusty Wathan was his manager when he was in the Phillies organization in Lakewood and Clearwater. That's where Cozart played, and also the Gulf Coast League for the Phillies, and Dusty managed him when he was in Clearwater. There's a strike to Ruff, and said he's always had a good arm, and he has matured since he left the Phillies organization. Dusty said it's not a surprise to see him in the big leagues. He said we always thought he would be a big league pitcher. Ground ball foul.
I always like to look at guys, the difference between their windup and their stretch, and there's really no difference in the way he sets his hands. I'm just wondering why he sets them so high. It just seems like there's just way too much movement. Once you set your hands so far at the top, he's above his hat. It just seems like he is too far for everything to travel.
Runner goes. That ball is hit sharply to third, backhanded on one hop by Dietrich. And they'll throw out Darren Ruff, and this is a prime time for you, Ben, to say what you told me off the air after Darren Ruff's last at bat.
After his first at bat, I said, Tom, is it me or does Darren Ruff get robbed more than any player on the Phillies? Now, I know Darren doesn't run great, but just case in point tonight, 2 bullets right on the nose, and it's gotten robbed twice. Once by Rojas at short, and this time by Derek Dietrich. Just seems that way to me. And the pitchers will tell you, oh, they even out. No, they don't. They never do.
Boy, he hit that ball right on the nose. Blanco takes a strike. He's got an RBI opportunity here with a runner at second base and 1 man down. You know, going back to the Cozart story, how frustrating must that be to have that issue and be told, there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, he obviously knew something was wrong. And it's not an arm or a shoulder, you know, it's not an elbow or a shoulder where you would think that a lot of the problems occur for a pitcher.
Well, how scary would that be? You get out of bed in the morning and
boom, right down.
Now, I've done that after stepping on one of the kids' Legos barefooted.
Well, who hasn't done that? That one's foul down the left field line. Oh, that does hurt, doesn't it?
I told my wife that should be some sort of torture treatment. Make you walk barefooted on Legos on a hardwood floor. Oh, man.
There is some truth to that. Swing and a miss, and Blanco strikes out. Second strikeout for Cozart. And they're 2 away.
It's about as defensive a swing as you're ever going to see out of Andres Blanco. Goes into emergency hack mode and just isn't able to foul it off.
Well, the Phils had a runner in scoring position in the first, did not score. Had a base runner in the third. And now a runner in scoring position here and still looking for the first run of the night. Outside. Fastball. Toyota Major League scoreboard. The Mets have jumped out to a 3-1 lead over the Reds. The game's in the top of the third. David Wright, a double, an RBI, a run scored. And a line drive off Cozart. Oh, man. Barehanded by Rojas. Everybody is safe, and Cozart is in pain. Cody Ashley gets a base hit.
That ball was cooked.
I think it hit him right on the forearm. Forearm of his throwing hand. Oh no, it looks like it's his glove hand. That ball went back so fast it was tough to see where it hit. Wow.
I'm not lying when I tell you, Tom, that is one of the hardest balls I've seen hit all season.
Yeah, he couldn't even protect his arm. Right there.
Oof.
Right on the forearm of his glove hand. Look at the pain on his face. And look how far the ball went back out to second base after it hit him.
Usually it takes a second or two for that pain to really set in.
Yeah.
That hurt immediately. Fortunately for him, it is on his left arm. Unfortunately for Cody Ashley and the Phillies, that ball doesn't get up the middle.
Yeah.
And the good guys are up by a point.
Well, he'll throw a little bit here. He's probably not going to feel it all right here. It's going to be another inning or so before he feels it more.
I don't know how he's going to be able to catch.
Yeah, look, he's trying to make a fist. That's the thing, closing the glove. Well, he's got 2 outs here in the top of the 4th inning. He doesn't have many starts left. Chris Narveson, who pitched in game 1, technically the long man. Well, Dan Jennings seems to be content that he's okay to go. So we'll continue here in the top of the 4th inning. Phillies threatening to get a run here. So the velocity off the bat was 103 miles per hour. Whew. Swing and a miss. The ball gets away from Real Muto. Not far enough, though, to allow advancement for Odubel. Up high, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Cameron was thinking he just took a line drive off his elbow. There's 2 outs. He's going to want to get ahead and get out of this inning and maybe get some ice on that arm and threw him a curveball first pitch.
Fouls it back. It's 1-2. And Real Muto goes out to chat with him. Cozart, and this is something that Dusty Wathan even said, he's a competitor. He's a Texas kid.
Are they all competitive in Texas?
Well, that's a good point. Runner goes from first. Pitch is taken high. No throw. Ashe will get second base. A little surprised the Marlins didn't throw through to try to get him.
Yeah, to concede that stolen base beyond me.
Opposite way, that'll go foul.
He basically just said, here, have it. Now base hit scores 2 as opposed to just the 1 run.
Time is called. Two balls, 2 strikes. Outside 3-2.
Good take there. Looks like he's in a lot of pain. I'd be surprised if you were able to go on, Tom.
Little dribbler, must be a catcher thing. Real Muto has it and throws out Cameron Rupp. Side is retired. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen that many. Not that I've seen those kind of plays that often, but that many in one series. Cozart gets through the inning with a little bit of pain. Is all we do. Call 1-800-JEFF now or visit jefferson.edu. Buy the Quality Plus Sports Stores. Go further. And buy the Pennsylvania Lottery. Benefits older Pennsylvanians every day. Jared Cozart spent some time in the dugout. Went down the stairs, came back up. He's wandering around the dugout itself, and they're looking at him. He does look like he's in pain. When he walked down to the trainer, they chatted for a moment. Said, "You want me to wrap it up for a little bit?"
Heck yeah, he's in pain.
Yeah, he is.
I don't think they'll be using any of that cold spray on it either.
Christian Yelich will be the batter. Do they still use that?
I have no idea. Maybe for kids.
Do you use it on your kids?
No.
No. One pitch is outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Yelich singled his first time up, a broken bat single. Checks his swing. They appeal, no swing, says the third base umpire, Carlos Torres. And it's 2-1.
I'm not sure what kind of treatment you could get for that during the course of a game.
You just ice it at this point.
Yeah.
That one's hit sharply to second. Bobbled by Blanco. He better hurry up. He's not going to get him. Oh, he did get him. Oh, they're going to review that. It looked like he was across the bag. Mike Malinsky had a couple last night at second base. I shouldn't say that they'll review it because it looked like he was across the bag. I mean, maybe it was an illusion. No, they're going to say review it. Once he bobbled it, Yelich runs pretty well. It was going to be hard to get him.
Runs very well, and that shows you how fast he actually is, because this ball was hit pretty hard to Andres Blanco at second base, and yeah, that's
he's safe.
Go down to his knee 4. I don't know why he went down to one knee to field that ground ball. Very unconventional.
Foot is on the bag. The ball does not arrive, and it's a quick review, and they say safe for first base. E4, that is the 6th error of the season for Blanco. The second one as a second baseman.
I asked Larry Boa today, I said, what happened to the throw that Andres made from third base last night? He said he just didn't get a grip. So that one, I've hardly ever seen a middle infielder go down to a knee to take a ground ball.
Yeah, not at this level. As Bohr takes outside, 1 ball, no strikes.
Maybe the velocity as to which that was hit is a reason, but
he's going through the motion right now, pulling his glove up toward his body. Want to know the count to Bohr, and it's 2-0. Asher has thrown a first pitch strike to 10 of the 13 hitters he's faced here tonight, and 8 of the last 9.
That's great to see. Like to see that same ground ball hit.
Well, the Phillies have already turned 7 double plays in this series. It's now 3-0. Ozuna's on deck.
I would think he'd have the green light here.
Over the screen, and it's 3-1. He did have the green light. Swing and a miss, 3-2. Took a little off that pitch. It was 90 miles an hour.
Bohr trying to hit that one at Fort Lauderdale.
So his fastball, whether it be the 2-seamer or 4-seamer, has ranged from 90 to 95 here tonight for Alec Asher, and those are good numbers.
The pitch before that, the 3-1, looked like it had a little cut action to it. Yelich does run well, but Cameron Rupp, you've seen the results he's had this year in throwing base runners out.
Swing and a miss. He got him. A delayed steal, and Yelich will get to second. He kicks the ball in a shallow left center field. Well, there's one away. Strikeout number 2 for Asher. And that'll be a stolen base for Christian Yelich. So with one out, Marcell Ozuna's coming up. Let's check in with Greg Murphy.
All right, thank you very much, Son. Well, it was a big day for two of the guys down in the minor league system for the Phillies as the Paul Owens Award winners were announced for 2015. They go to the Player of the Year and the Pitcher of the Year in the Phil's farm system. Andrew Knapp, the catcher that finished up his season in Double-A Reading, switch-hitting catcher, 23 years old, batted .308, 35 doubles, 13 home runs, and 84 RBI. He started the season in Single-A, was promoted, and just hit the ball. It unbelievably consistently all season long. He is your Player of the Year for the Phils. And Ricardo Pinto, he started the season in Single-A Lakewood, then went over to Clearwater. In 24 starts for the Phils, 15-4 with an ERA of 2.97. He was a 3-time Player of the Week honoree for the Phillies in the minor league system, and also a Player of the Month. Those two guys will be at the ballpark at Citizens Bank Park on October 1st to receive their awards, the Paul Owens Award winners for 2015. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, and give credit to Pinto. I mean, you have Aaron Nola in your system, and he gets the honor. Now, Nola's been up in the big leagues for a while now. Nola won 10 games combined between two different levels, but that is a great sign to see his success at the lower levels and to have it, you know, on two different spots this year be that consistent. And speaking of Knapp, I know you and I were sitting there talking to Dusty Watson. Dusty, a former catcher. You're a former catcher. I mean, he's pretty high on Knapp. He still says that he's got work to do from a catching standpoint, but he feels like he will definitively hit here in the big leagues and probably could hit right now in the big leagues.
He didn't hedge at all on that when I asked him. I said, Dusty, can he hit in the big leagues? He said yes. I mean, right away it came out. Did not hedge at all. He said, yeah, he does need a little work. He said, this is a guy, though, that didn't start catching till he was a junior at University of California, Berkeley.
Right.
So it takes some time, some maturation behind the plate to develop those skills, the pitch calling skills, blocking balls, throwing. And he's a guy that also had Tommy John surgery. So getting that arm back to 100%, being able to throw guys out at second and third base.
Well, he's a switch hitter, which is a huge bonus. You know, defensively, he can keep working on it. And one thing that Dusty pointed out, elaborating on what you said about the fact he didn't start catching till he was a junior at Cal. His knees have not been bending up and down for all that long, which is a great thing for a young catcher. Kind of like Carlos Ruiz.
Yeah.
Ball's fouled back. It's 3-1. Well, congratulations to both of those guys, and we look forward to seeing them at the ballpark when the Phillies return home. Down low, ball 4. Well, speaking of prospects, earlier today, Baseball America released their top 20 prospects in the Gulf Coast League, and the Phil's #1 pick, Cornelius Randolph, is number 5. They say that kid can just flat out hit the baseball. In fact, there are 3 Phillies prospects that are in the top 20 in the Gulf Coast League. Kyle Tucker, big-time prospect for the Astros. The same with Daz Cameron, Mike Cameron's son. So they have guys that are 3 and 4. Cornelius hit over 300 first year as a professional player. Dietrich sends one down the left field line, slicing toward the foul pole. It is foul, thankfully. Balls, 1 strike to Dietrich. The Marlins 3 for 40 with runners in scoring position. 3 for their last 40 with runners in scoring position. That includes 1 for 24 against the Washington Nationals in the last series. And now it's 0-2 to Dietrich.
there's not a better time in this ball game for a double play than right now. Dietrich does run well. Doesn't mean he can't turn two, though.
No balls, 2 strikes to Dietrich. Swing and a miss. He got him. Well, when he is needed to come up with some strikeouts, he's gotten them here tonight. That's 3. And there are 2 outs in the 4th.
Sharp breaking ball there. Back foot's Derek Dietrich. Did not pick up that spin at all.
Real Muto is 0 for 1. He grounded out to third his first time up.
I'd like to see maybe Cameron Rupp go out and say, all right, you should be out of this inning, because that play to Yelich to lead off the inning should have been the 3rd out. But you guys say, hey, your work's not done yet. Your work is not done. You're throwing the ball well. Give you a little breather. There goes Cameron Rupp. Give you a little breather. Your work is not done in this inning. Make some pitches. And let's go in and swing it.
Marlins have a hitter waiting because Cozart's spot is due up after Rojas. Pitch coming to Real Muto. Fastball in there, 0-1. Narveson warming up, so we may have seen the last of Cozart.
Probably not the best that this is a little bit of a longer inning, and that thing's probably tightening up.
Yeah. Hit by a line drive off the bat of Cody Ashe. Fly ball, right side. Andres Blanco on the edge of the outfield grass says he has it. And the side is retired. So Astros able to work around the error by Blanco. He leaves a couple. We'll head to the top of the 5th inning here in South Florida. Phillies nothing, Marlins nothing. Start of his warm-ups, he throws 1 pitch. He's got the sleeves on, and that's it. He says he's done. I'm surprised they even sent him back out there. As Ben mentioned, it was a long half inning, and they will take it back into the clubhouse, take a look at him. So the Marlins will go to the bullpen. It's not going to be Narveson In fact, he was the guy that was warming up. It'll be Jose Urena who will be the new pitcher, the right-hander. 17th ball game, 1-5, 5.28 ERA. So he's going to get as long as he needs to warm up because he was not throwing in the bullpen. So Kozar goes 4 innings. He gets 2 strikeouts. He walked 2, allowed 4 hits, and no runs. So his night is done. His season could be done depending on how that arm is. So there is Urena, who is just now starting his warm-up tosses. He hasn't even stepped onto the rubber yet. Those are his numbers: 1-5, a 5.28 ERA, 25 strikeouts, and 58 innings of work. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get you set up for the top of the 5th inning. Answer. All right, Ben, here's the question one more time. Which Marlins pitcher holds the single season Marlins record for most appearances with 78 in 2002?
Really, one of the only guys I could think of out of the bullpen in that era, Braden Looper.
Braden Looper is correct. Log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize pack. And thanks for playing Jeep Stump the Fans. Wasn't Dontrell Willis. D-Train. I saw that.
D-Train.
Saw that young lady walking around the concourse today with the D-Train jersey. Well, while we're waiting, congratulations goes out to our friend Sal Augustinelli, who has been named the recipient of the 2015 Dallas Green Award. He's had a hand in signing Freddie Galvis, Carlos Ruiz, Cesar Hernandez, Maikel Franco. And he is the Phillies International Scouting Director. Now, the award will be presented on the 30th of September. I talked to Sal today through email, and he is beyond honored to be given an award that symbolizes the great Dallas Green. He's been a member of the Phillies scouting staff since 1993.
Wow.
So congratulations, Sal. We'll look forward to seeing you at the ballpark, where you'll be able to accept that honor. Aaron Altair will lead things off as we start the top of the 5th inning.
I guess Urena is loose. First pitch at 98.
Second pitch looked pretty good, but they called it a ball, so it's 2-0. Just 24 years old. He's from Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic. That one is ripped down the left field line. Foul. Almost took the ball boy's glove off.
Good snare, though. Knock it down.
Down and away, and it's 3 balls and 1 strike. The breaking ball for Urena is a slurve, the combination of the curve and the slider. Also has a changeup. That ball is drilled deep to left field, but Yelich is there, and he'll put it away right at the track. Sounded like he just got it off the sweet spot of the bat, and there's one out.
When you come into a ball game throwing 98 like he did on his first pitch, you throw a 2-1 slider, and Aaron Altherr spits on it, means his breaking pitch isn't that good. Good swing there, just catches it off the end, does Aaron Altherr. But that tells me 2-1, you got to be looking for a fastball. Guys in the upper 90s, you do throw a breaking ball in that situation and you spit on it. That means you pick it up early and it doesn't do a whole lot.
Alec Asher takes a strike. He got his first major league hit in his last at bat. Urena was 6-1 this year down in the minor leagues in Single A and in Triple A. Starting pitcher, he made 12 appearances. He had an earned run average of 2.58. That ball's hit well out toward left field. Yelich on the run. He's not going to get it. It's a one hop off the wall. And Asher was going to stop at first, but then looked out and realized that he can get to second base. So he has his first big league hit, his first big league double. Maybe he will hit his first major league home run tonight. A one out double, and the Phils have another runner in scoring position.
You could tell he's a pitcher not used to running the bases, because this ball gets over Christian Yelich's head in left field, and looks like he gets to first base. And well, okay, if you're going to misplay it, I'll go to second base.
Now Galvis, who's 2 for 2. Fastball at the knees, 0-1.
Did ask Freddie today. I said, Freddie, why are you closing up a little bit more? He was sitting in the locker with Andres Blanco. He didn't have so much of an open stance. He's even doing it from the left side as well. He said, too much movement. I'm having too much movement. So he said, I wanted to square it up a little bit and basically just go up with my foot and down with my foot. He said it was a 3-part stance. He had his foot open. He'd bring his foot. That was 1. He'd bring his foot in 2, and then stride 3. 3-part movement. He said it's just too much.
And you'd agree with that?
I would agree with that.
I think Matt would agree with that too.
And then Andres Blanco said, we have to eliminate the movement. So I'm thinking, I wonder if they told Odubel that. All that movement.
Ground ball right of the mound. Urena makes a nice play, looks to third, and gets the out softly. Two away, runner over at third base. Well, the last 3 games of the 2015 regular season for the Phillies will come against the Miami Marlins next weekend. Friday, October 2nd and Saturday the 3rd, both 7:05 starts. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. Fan Appreciation Day will be Sunday the 4th. All fans will receive that schedule magnet right there.
Throw that right on your fridge and think about the hope of spring all winter long.
Bogusevic, excuse me, swing and a miss. It's 0-1. Brian 0 for 2, grounded out, struck out. Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
It'd be nice to start an A ball, skip Double-A, go to Triple-A, and then go to the big leagues.
Well, he was in Double-A a little bit last year in Jacksonville. Brand new stadium, by the way, in Jacksonville.
Nice and cool down there in the summertime.
Actually won 13 games last year in Jacksonville. Marlins have had him since he was 16. He was in the Dominican Summer League for 2 years. Got hit around the first year, not so much the second year. Ground ball right back to the mound. There are 2 outs. The pitcher at third base and the pitcher on the mound both forgot that there were 2 outs. The pitcher on the mound looked the pitcher at third base back to the bag. He stopped and went back, and then realized that he had to play at first. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left. The game since 1989. Donate a baseball glove or two to the next generation of baseball greats at the Citizens Bank kiosk at Citizens Bank Park. At Citizens Bank, we want to help you bank better. So the next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. Bottom half of the 5th inning, and Miguel Rojas will lead things off against Alec Asher. Alec Asher, the hitter, is 2 for 2. Alec Asher, the pitcher, has allowed just 1 hit so far through the first 4 innings. So he was on the base paths when the last out was recorded, so that's why he's just now finishing up his warm-up tosses. All right, it's only been 4 innings. Have you liked his approach tonight?
I have, and I really like the fact that he's pitching in.
Right.
I think a lot had to do with when he hit Ozuna up and in. It's obviously unintentional, but I think it made these hitters get back on their heels a little bit. So a great pitch for strike 3 to D. Gordon. A couple back foot breaking balls that he's thrown. I like what I see out of him tonight.
Well, we talked about his fastball. He's got enough fastball. It's just commanding it more than anything else. 4-seam fastballs. He's thrown 35 so far.
He seems like he just has a different plane tonight. Everything's coming down, and it's actually coming in on a downward plane.
Well, the key will be to try to duplicate it at least 1 more time, possibly 2 more times. He is scheduled to pitch Tuesday night against the New York Mets, and that's probably going to be it for him. He may pitch the final game a little bit, but that may be a bullpen game. It all depends on how Aaron Nola feels after this Saturday's game.
Johnny Holstaff game.
Johnny Holstaff. That's the thought. It would be either Nola's next start or Asher's next start. Cody Ashley makes a fine play into the line, and a 1-hop throw over to first gets Miguel Rojas. 1 out.
Ball not hit all that hard. It was just in the right spot, meaning down the line, and Cody goes down, makes it, and rushes the throw just a hair, but very good pick on the other end by Darren Ruff at first base to pick up his buddy.
Cody's done a nice job over at third since being placed back there. He's handled just about everything. Here is Tomas Telis, who is pinch hitting for Urena. Breaking ball, and it misses high. 1-0. Now Chris Narbison is preparing to come in.
Yeah, he is.
Try to breaking ball again. This time it's in for a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. Over to shortstop. Freddie Galvis is up with it. Keep up with the pennant races in true HD quality with MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service. College students enjoy a back-to-school offer with 35% off. Authentication required. Blackouts and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV today. So now 2 outs. D. Gordon is 0 for 2. He's grounded out and struck out looking. A little high, 1-0. What are you doing? Stretching?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Legs are getting a little tight, Tom.
Yeah. Out of play. It's 1-1. Off the hands, over to shortstop. Galvis charges, has to get rid of it quickly, and gets him easily. Well, this is probably the best inning of the night for Alec Asher. This inning and the third. Kind of dominant the way he went through the bottom of the order and then the top of the order.
Get this man a run.
That's exactly
Or
right.
2 or 3.
Maybe when we come back in the top of the 6th. Signs for the Phils rotation of the future. Alec Asher, Aaron Nola, Adam Morgan, and Jared Eichhoff have all arrived on the big stage and have arrived ready to make a case for staying at the major league level. With bumps in the road and a learning curve for any young prospect, this quartet has made adjustments and found success against opposing lineups since their major league debuts. The future of the rotation is bright, and it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Chris Darvison will take over for the Marlins as we go to the top of the 6th inning. And he will face Odubel Herrera, Darren Ruff, Andres Blanco. 3, 4, and 5 for the Phillies. Phillies have managed 5 hits so far, but no runs. Darvison 2-1 with a 5.33 earned run average. So Urena, I guess, is the bridge to Narveson. He goes 1 inning, allows 1 hit. Odubel so far 0 for 1 with a walk. Swing and a miss, and it's 0-1. I was thinking about it the other day about what Odubel needs to work on just to take that next step next year. Because teams have adjusted to him but he's adjusted right back. And I thought about, the left-handed approach, how he does against left-handers. And, the numbers were so early on this season for Odubel against left-handed pitching. But like everything else, he's kind of picked up and has done better as the season has gone on. But we see a lot of that. You just saw that jumpiness.
Yes.
But his numbers are very good against left-handed pitching. Look, he's hitting better against lefties than he is against righties.
They are still very good. One thing, I guess maybe the strikeouts, 125 this year, maybe could cut back on that. But for never being above Double-A, I'd take 125. That's pretty darn good.
In the dirt, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes.
And I know he's got it in him. And last thing I want him to do is to start to try to hit home runs.
Yeah.
But he has 8 long balls this year. Just watching this man take batting practice, a strong young kid. I think he could get into the 12 to 15 range. I really do.
Well, I think his manager thinks the same thing. Fouls that one off his upper body, and it remains 2-2.
And again, the last thing you want him to do is to start to try it. I think you have to be very happy with the season. 470 at bats, 137 hits, 40 RBIs, 8 long balls.
He asked for time from Mike Winters, who looked reluctantly to give it to him. Inside corner. That's a tight pitch. And Odubel's down looking. 1 away here in the 6th inning. Darren Ruff's coming up. Let's check in with Greg Murphy. Murph.
All right, thanks, Tom. Well, as promised earlier in the game, we have selected the Data Strong fan photo of the game. Today's photo comes from Hurt Dog 70.
Oh,
and they write the captions, and I like this. He says Luke Yeager visiting, quote, the voice of summer. No doubt about it. Tweet your strongest fan photo to hashtag Philly Photo Data Strong Fan. You just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast, all brought to you by T-Mobile. The great Harry Callis.
Hurt Dog. Hurt Dog. Yeah. 1 ball, no strikes to Darren Ruff. Fouls it, and it's 1-1. Darren robbed him, hit his first time up, and then really robbed his last time up. Phillies leading hitter against lefties. The National League's leading hitter against lefties.
There is really something to be said for that. He's all National League.
In the dirt, and it's 2-2.
Saw Mike Winters call out Odubel Herrera on that fastball in. Frank Court told a story yesterday. I was in stitches. He said Mike Winters had a game. He called a pitch in on him. Frenchie thought it was well inside. Believe he went on that.
He did, according to the first base umpire, so back-to-back strikeouts.
So he calls his pitch on Frenchie, and it's way inside. And he looks back and he says, Mike, that ball's not in. I got that ball in. He goes, that's a good pitch, Jeff. Next pitch is even farther, and Jeff swings. He said, my bat disintegrates. Puts it in play, tapper back to the pitcher. He took about 4 steps and said, ah, to heck with this. He went back and got Mike Winters' face. You made me swing at that pitch. And Frenchie had a few other choice words, but he said, I think Mike's forgiven me since then. Of course, he got kicked out of the ball game, but the way Frenchie tells the story, I was dying. It was funny.
Well, he was. It was me, him, and Larry in the clubhouse today, and they were selecting their World Series umpiring crew. I mean, the 2 of them talking about umpires.
My goodness.
I mean, there's a picture.
Why didn't you call me? I would love to hear that.
There's a picture of all the umpires up on the wall.
Uh-huh.
And Larry and I are standing there. He goes, let's pick our World Series umpiring crew. And Frank Gore comes over. They were in agreement on a lot of them.
Were they?
Yeah, they both agreed on Joe West behind the plate. Blanco lines one down the left field line.
I think Mike Winters, how many times have we talked about his strike zone tonight? When you don't talk about them or hear about them, you know they're doing their job and doing it well.
Jim Joyce was also a name that they threw out there.
Made it a point to go see him in Atlanta on Sunday morning.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. Had to go down and see JJ.
That's the Greg Gibson crew. I think Gibson was in there
Gibby
too.
was there, yep.
Out toward right center field, Marcell Ozuna comes sliding in and makes the catch. Thought that ball bounced.
I thought it bounced as well.
He shouldn't have slid. He didn't need to, but he didn't get a great jump.
Really wasn't given 100% running after it
Really
either.
wasn't given 100%. Here it is. I think maybe it moved in his glove. Maybe that was the allusion to it. Middle of the 6th inning, still scoreless between the Marlins and the Phils. Visit your local Del Val Honda dealer. Visit DelValHondaDealers.com. By Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. And by Chevrolet. Visit your local dealer at ChevyDealer.com. Bottom of the 6th inning, Phillies and the Marlins. Only 6 hits combined between the two teams. This has been the best outing so far for Alec Asher, and it's really nice to see. Phillies acquired Asher with a bunch of other guys for Cole Hamels and Jake Diekman. And both are helping the Texas Rangers get to the postseason.
Cole pitched today, and they did have an off day, but they kept his spot in the rotation, giving him 3 more starts before the season ends.
Right.
If would need be, he would pitch on the last day.
Correct. If they need that win, they want to make sure he's available.
Correct.
And otherwise, he'll pitch the first game of the postseason.
Yes.
Ichiro is 0 for 2. He's popped out and grounded out. Fly ball to center field, and Odubel Herrera is there. Quick first out for Alec Asher. Well, here's the catch in center field. We kind of slowed it up a little bit just to make sure, and Marcell Ozuna did indeed catch it. It bounced in his glove. But his effort was, well,
lackluster.
It was average. Let's just put it at that. Must have some leg issue or something. I don't know what it is, but he just didn't move.
I just thought he was playing it on a bounce.
Thought he was too.
Like he thought he couldn't get there, and I didn't see any effort whatsoever. Doesn't seem too worried about it.
No. Ball 3 or ball 2, I should say. No, ball 3. 3 balls and no strikes. Scoreboard here had 2. We were right. Under the 6, we had 3-0. Brian Morris, the right-hander, warming up in the pen for the Marlins. Out to left field. Alter's going to have to really move to get to this one, and he does. He makes the catch in fair territory. 2 outs. Headed into extra innings and need a boost? Call W.B. Mason and order Green Mountain Coffee K-Cup pods. Great tasting coffee at amazingly low prices. Delivered free the very same day when you order by 11:30 a.m. W.B. Mason knocks it out of the park. Who but W.B.? That is big old Justin Bour, who's 0 for 2. He's grounded out to third and struck out.
I really like the routes that Aaron Altair makes, and that he takes. That wasn't the easiest of plays, but he made it with ease.
I think the one thing that I heard one of the coaches say, it might have been Juan Samuel, could have been Larry Boa. He said compared to a lot of other guys, when the ball's hit, you can tell almost immediately whether he's going to catch it or not.
Yeah.
Now, there are outfielders that when the ball's hit, you don't know whether they're going to catch it.
He really just glides to that ball.
On the inside corner, strike 3 call. That was a cutter from Alec Asher, and he has struck out 4 in this ball game. He's retired the last 8 that he's faced. We'll move to the 7th. Phil's still looking for a run. Asher has 4 strikeouts tonight, which ties his single season mark. He also has a single and a double. But the Phillies are 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. So as we go to the top of the 7th inning, the only hit for the Marlins, a single by Christian Yelich. And that's it. And Jared Cozart lasted 4, got hit with a line drive off the bat of Cody Ashe, who's coming up. So his night is done. There's Dalier Hinojosa. Ashe takes low. I think Asher's out of this game if his spot comes up in the order, although he's 2 for 2. Hit the ball pretty hard a couple times. Swing and a miss at a breaking ball, 2-1. Cody a little frustrated at that. That was kind of a hanger for him. And he was just a little out front of it.
Much like the one he hit out the first night here off Lazo.
Ground ball off the first base line. It is a fair ball. And 1 out. 2016 season tickets are available as we speak. At least the information to get them are. Full and partial ticket plans are available right now. Guaranteed locations, special season ticket holder benefits. Deposits are now being accepted for new season tickets. Plus, if you're interested, you can get some information about them. If you still have some time, you still want to think about it, call 215-463-5000. Very helpful folks there. We'll get you in touch with some spots in the stadium that might be beneficial for you. Go to Phillies.com for more information. Chris Narvison's day is done. He goes an inning and a third. Another pitching change for the Marlins in a scoreless ball game.
Well, tell you what, Derek Dietrich goes down and gets this off the bat of Darren Ruff. Unfortunately for Darren, gets robbed of a double. But Cody Ashe flashing some leather of his own, going down the line, getting up and firing it across the diamond, and his teammate Darren Ruff picks him up across the diamond. There, your Hyundai defensive plays of the game, brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers.
Yeah, there's a couple plays this series where Ashe has wiped away that line behind the third base bag. Here's Brian Morris. Morris is the fourth pitcher used tonight for the Marlins. And he's on to face Cameron Rupp, who's 0 for 2. He's fly to right, and he's grounded one just in front of home plate. First pitch fastball up and in, 1 ball, no strikes. Morris has been a good pickup. They got him from the Pirates last year. Ground ball to third, and it's swept up by Dietrich. And then he throws out the hustling Cameron Rupp. 2 outs.
No, he has some time with Cam running, but I thought he was going to write a novel on the ball and then send it over to Board first. Take your time, acknowledge the fans, sling it across the diamond. As you said last night, Dietrich did come up as a second baseman, so very acclimated to the infield.
Aaron Altair takes strike 1. Altair has walked. He's flied out to the warning track and left. In the dirt. Darnell Sweeney out in the on-deck circle to pinch hit for Asher. Wonder what they'll do if they don't get to the pitcher's spot. If they'll allow him to continue or if he's done.
I don't see why they wouldn't. Really stress-free innings for Alec Asher this evening. But again, a younger pitcher, not accustomed to throwing this deep in the season.
Yeah, it's all about that. There's nothing else. Line drive, one hopper scooped up by Rojas. Side is retired. Well, the Marlins do have the best defense statistically in the National League, and they're showing it tonight. It's part of the reason why this game is still scoreless as we go to the bottom of the 7th. University is a gorgeous campus down near the Jersey Shore, near Monmouth Park. Alec Asher is going to pitch here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Every time the Phillies pitchers retire the opposition 1-2-3, which he's done the last 2 innings and 3 times overall. Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Cody Ashe across the diamond in time, 1 away. Ben, you like to say useful in situations like that?
Useful. All right, I'm going to question your movie knowledge here, Tom.
Uh-oh.
What's the score? 0-0. Who's winning? The Bears.
All right, I got this one. Hold it, give me a second. I got this one. Derek Dietrich is the hitter. Breaking ball, and it's 0-1. It is right on the tip of my tongue, and I feel bad that I don't have it. Murph, you got it?
How about Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yeah.
That away, Murph.
That's where I was in Chicago. My mind was in Chicago. Up the third base line. Ashley tries to barehand it. He probably had a chance to glove it and throw if he wanted to.
The only 2 hits for the Marlins tonight, 2 broken bats. Again, though, Dietrich does run well, but he got out of the box slowly.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to pick up the ball. When your bat explodes like that, you're just looking for, there's shrapnel flying everywhere. You're just trying to pick up the ball, and that's why he got out of the box a little slower.
Well, here's Real Muto, a base runner for the Marlins. He's grounded out once, popped out the other time. Out toward the alley in right center field. On the run is Bogusevic and Herrera. They're not going to get it. It's going to go to the wall. A run will score. Dietrich's around third. Real Muto's on his way to third. The throw by Blanco not in time. RBI triple, and the Marlins take a 1-0 lead. Next to Alter's ball. That's the hardest hit ball of the night for either team. And for Real Muto, it's his 7th triple of the season.
First pitch hacking. As Real Muto, the ball gets a ball. Center cut. Drives it out. He's hit a couple balls. The first night in, he drove 2 balls to dead center field that Odubel made plays on because it is so deep here. But he's showing that he can go to center field and right center. He's got that kind of pop.
So the Marlins have the lead. They have a runner at third. The infield is in. A little low. 1 ball, no strikes. Who says that Lenny Harris can only be a hitter? Low and Hinojosa. Well, he took over the third base coaching duties earlier this season for Brett Butler, who's still on the coaching staff. Off the end of the bat to right field. Bogusevic will get under it. Real Muto will tag. Here comes Real Muto. The throw to the plate by Bogusevic on one hop. He is out at home plate. Great throw. Great movement by Cameron Rupp. The side is retired. Dan Jennings, I think, is thinking about challenging not for the out, but for Rule 7.13. But I think Rupp did everything right there. Yeah, that was a great throw by Bogusevic.
Yeah. All the way around. Kept it low. You talk about throwing it right on the money. Man alive.
Yeah, he got him.
You're out.
Now, was his foot in violation? I don't think so, because he gave him a path to the backside of home plate. Great technique by Bogusevic.
That is awesome.
I think everything was done properly there. They will not challenge it. The inning is over. It's just a 1-0 deficit here in the 7th inning. 8th double play of the series for the Phils. Will go to the top of the 8th. Wrong when you buy right. And buy Toyota. Where will Toyota take you? Visit buyatoyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Go to the top of the 8th inning. This series, this road trip so far, has been about lack of offense for the Phils. But that's why this was an important out for Bogusevic and Cameron Rupp to record.
I can't get over the throw was just excellent.
Boy, that was a lot closer than I thought, looking at it again from that angle. Initially, I thought it was a given, that he was tagged out. There, it looked like it wasn't a given. There's Martin Prado. He'll take over at third. Mike Dunn takes over on the mound.
Great throw. Great tag.
Mm-hmm. Jeff Francoeur will pinch hit. Alec Asher leaves after 7 innings. 1 run.
What a ball game.
3 hits. Struck out 4. It's a shame they haven't gotten him a run.
Well, they could get him 2. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, look at the difference tonight. I mean, if there's some way he can use tonight as a roadmap, then you got something. Really was strong. Francoeur strikes out. And one away here in the 8th. Time for the Major League Notebook. Let's turn it over to Greg Murphy. Murph.
All right, thank you, guys. It's brought to you by St. Joseph's University, and the Boston Red Sox have themselves a new general manager, and he's been there all along. Dan Dombrowski announcing today, promoting Mike Hazen to Senior VP and General Manager. Hazen has been with the Sox for 10 seasons. He was the assistant GM under Ben Cherington. Dombrowski said that he considered about 30 different candidates, but was very impressed with Hazen and all that he has brought to the Red Sox organization. He decided at the end of the day that he was the best candidate. So there you have it. And also, Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, said today that he would have a decision on whether or not Pete Rose would be brought back and made eligible again for baseball by the end of the calendar year 2015. Says he has not met with Pete yet. He did talk with him briefly at the All-Star game in Cincinnati, but he wants to sit down and talk with him again, and then he will make a decision before the end of the calendar year on Pete Rose. So we'll wait on that. And I should mention that Mike Hazen, guys, by the way, played 4 years of college baseball at Princeton University for Scott Bradley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Scott Bradley, the former Seattle Mariner. 1 ball, 1 strike to Galvis. Swing and a miss. It's 1-2. Galvis tonight is 2 for 3.
Murph, I do want to thank you for getting that movie quote, because
it's what I do.
I was in Chicago. I just had
some
the wrong
broad shoulders up here, Murph.
I have very little knowledge of things, but that I know.
Yeah, well, particularly that movie. It's on in my house all the time. I'll go.
You're the Sausage King?
You're the Sausage King of Chicago. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Freddie Galvis. Fly ball left field. Yelich 5 steps in front of the track. Boy, this would be a tough one to swallow. I mean, there's still 4 outs to go for the Phillies offensively. 2-1 3 times in Atlanta. Extra inning loss last night by 1 run. Get a great outing from Alec Asher. Darnell Sweeney's going to pinch hit for Brian Bogusevic.
Regardless of the outcome, I'm just very happy for Alec Asher. For him personally, because let's face it, he's had a rough go of it since he got caught up in the first few outings that he's had here in the big leagues. Because the doubts start to set in. He's had success his entire life, and you get to the big leagues and you've had a couple rough outings, you're like, am I good enough to pitch here?
Yeah.
Am I? And I think after tonight's out, he's good. Yes, I am. I am good enough.
One ball, one strike to Darnell Sweeney, and he takes strike two. Up high. Two-two pitch now to Sweeney. And that one's fouled at home plate. Sweeney is 0 for his last 17. He's trying to end that right here. He's got the ability to pop one out of the yard, as we've seen even at this ballpark. Out to left center field, his first major league home run. Out to left center field this time. It's going to stay in the yard. Ozuna will call off Yelich. Side is retired. Well, the bullpen has really stepped up in place of Cozart. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Marlins up by 1. Regular season. It's Fan Appreciation Day at Citizens Bank Park. Traditional celebration with plenty of prizes and surprises. You can order your tickets by going to Phillies.com. All fans will receive that scheduled magnet, 2016 scheduled magnet, when they come through the gates of Citizens Bank Park. 1-0 Marlins. Bottom of the 8th inning. Jeff Francoeur stays in the game to play right field. And Adam Lowen into the ball game, his 16th game. No wins, no losses. ERA 8.04. One ball and no strikes. Prado's numbers against the Phillies this year. He's had very good numbers during his career against the Phillies. Doesn't matter if he's playing for the Braves. Doesn't matter if he's playing for the Diamondbacks. Doesn't matter if he's playing for the Marlins. Over toward third, a foul ball. Too cool for school.
Yeah, he is. All-time pinch hit leader is Lenny Harris.
Told Matt he should have got a photo with him when he was down here. Line drive, base hit to left field for Martin Prado, who can roll out of bed and get a hit against the Phillies if he chose to. That'll bring D. Gordon to the plate. Time for our Cold Hard Fact, brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. D. Gordon with 54 multi-hit games and 53 stolen bases. It's remarkable that the Marlins have had that many guys recently have that success. Juan Pierre did it twice. He was here today at the ballpark today. He looked great.
He did.
Ball is bunted foul. 0-1.
I think Juan's going to be that kind of guy that looks the same until he's 65 or so.
It's a shame we can't all look that way.
Yeah.
It's true, though. He was hanging out in the Phillies clubhouse for a while. He was over, obviously, on the Marlins side. That one's bunted to the right side, low and off the mound. This time they're able to get Gordon at first base, not like last night. Sacrifice is successful. 1-3 on the putout.
Big run out there. Phillies down their last 3 outs. Common sense tells you that 1 run's a heck of a lot easier to get than 2. But with the offensive struggles that the Phillies have had, you can keep that runner on second base. Have a chance to tie it or go ahead in the 9th. Down the left field line, it's 0-2. Good challenge here for Lowen. And with another lefty up, this lefty not bunting. And a lefty of the caliber of Ichiro, even at the age of 42. Hand-eye coordination, spoiling pitches off. As good as it gets, but he's still susceptible to breaking ball in the dirt.
Over to the left side, Prado will go to third. Ichiro is retired. So runner third with 2 men down. Christian Yelich is coming up. Tomorrow night, Michael Barkan has a lot to talk about with former Eagle Ike Reese about this Sunday's Eagles game against the Jets. Start your night with Philly Sports Talk tomorrow night at 5 right here on Comcast Sportsnet. Yelich is 1 for 3 tonight. Well, you're right, Ben. This is a big out right here. I mean, this is huge to be able to get Yelich, keep it at a 1-run game. Not saying the Phillies offense will be able to muster anything because they've been quiet tonight. Inside corner, 0-1. A.J. Ramos, the closer. Phillies have gotten to him this year. Way outside, great play by Cameron Rupp.
It was a tough one.
It's kind of what we were talking about with Dusty Wathan today. You know, with Knapp. You know, a play like that. Yeah, he was talking about certain techniques that you catchers have. for guys that throw with movement like Lowen just did right there. I mean, he was setting up inside and he had to sweep to his left. He said for a young catcher sometimes you can't make that play.
Right.
But for a veteran catcher like, let's say, Rupp, I shouldn't say veteran, but a guy that's a professional major leaguer, he's had reps and he's able to put techniques together, turning his glove certain ways to be able to pick a ball like that.
I always found that the toughest pitches to catch were hard throwing lefties that would command the inside part of the plate. Sometimes the ball would cut. You just have to make sure on that you keep your thumb up. You start turning your thumb down, you're going to run into, we called it getting thumbed, and you would get the ligaments stretched and it would hurt.
Well, how about the work against the lefties by Adam Lowen here? It's a revelation if he can do this. Kind of like it was a revelation when Jake Diekman first came to the big leagues. Last chance for the Phils offense. Seems like we've been saying that a lot.
Phils with one final chance. They trail the Marlins 1-0, and after this game is over, well, Phils load up on a plane and head back north. We'll stop in Washington for a 3-game series over the weekend with the Nationals. Here are your pitching matchups. Jarek Eichhoff will take the ball for the Phillies tomorrow night against Jordan Zimmerman. On Saturday at 4:05, it will be Aaron Nola versus Steven Strasburg, and then on Sunday, Aaron Harang will take the ball for the Phils, and Gio Gonzalez, the lefty, at 11-8, will take the ball for the Nationals. But guys, this one's not over yet.
No, Murph, it is not. And it's only a one-run game. Now, we've talked about this before. 3 games in Atlanta, all one-run losses. Last night, 1-run loss. Phillies won game 1 of this series. That was not a 1-run game. But let's see if the offense, which has really struggled on this road trip, can get something going against A.J. Ramos. 2-4. 28 saves, 34 opportunities. He'll face Odubel Herrera to lead it off. Marlins bullpen has been very good here tonight in relief of the injured Jared Kozart. Oh, man, right in the behind. Can't imagine that was intentional in any way. Any stretch or form.
Oof, right on the tailbone.
He yelled as soon as it happened, too.
Yeah, he did. Shame it didn't hit him. It's a shame he got hit, but it's a shame he didn't hit him more in the cheekier part.
Yeah.
That can't make Dan Jennings very happy.
Not even a little bit. Darren Ruff takes way outside. It's 1-0. Well, the Marlins now all of a sudden have put two pitchers up in the bullpen.
That's why keeping that runner at second base, Adam Lone did such a good job.
Ooh. Something's not right here. 2-0.
Depending on how Odubel feels after getting hit, that is as slow as you could be to home plate. That's a giant leg kick. Probably looking in, yeah. Hey, can I go? Hey, Pete.
Two balls and one strike as Ruff fouls it back.
Did you go from now having the tying run, if they did have 2 runs, you go from having the tying run at home plate to the go-ahead run at home plate.
There goes Odubel. Pitch is hit high in the air to left center field. Playable for either Yelich or Ozuna, and it's Ozuna who makes the call. And he gets it in quickly.
Whew, what an arm.
That was a strong throw.
Give Odubel credit for hustling back to first base to see exactly how deep that was going to be. If it would give him an opportunity to tag up and get to second base, you see him sprint back. But good thing he shut her down because Ozuna came up firing. It was seed to second base.
He got an excellent jump on the stolen base attempts.
Yes.
Andres Blanco is 0 for 3. He's grounded out. He struck out. He's also flied to center. Breaking ball on the inside corner, according to Mike Winters. Keeps that up, he's not going to be in the World Series as an umpire, according to Larry Anderson. Outside and low, 1-1. In the air to right center field. Ichiro going back on it. He has room. Now the Phillies are down to their final out, trailing it 1-0 here in the top of the 9th inning. Coming up after the ball game, Ricky Bottalico will recap this game, this series, and preview tomorrow's game and series against the Washington Nationals. Only on Cure Auto Insurance presents Phillies Post Game Live.
Well, Tom, I got to say, if this game does end, you're leaving for the weekend, and I just want to tell you how much of a joy I had working with you this year, my first year in the booth. And
I can't believe that this is our final game.
This
together.
is it, man.
Yeah. You will not be working at home.
No, Sunday will be my final game down in Washington.
Right.
But
you'll be at the ballpark, though, I would think, at some point next week.
Yes.
Yeah, you've been great, Ben, not only to work with, but been great to get to know even more.
Feeling is mutual, Tom. I appreciate it.
0-1 to Cody Ashe.
Good swing.
0-2. Phillies down to their final strike, their final out. Cody can give the Phils the lead. 4 home runs in his last 9 games. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Check swing.
Break their hearts, Cody.
Odubel leads off first base. Popped him up shallow left center field. Here comes Yelich on the run, and out goes Rojas. What a play!
Wow.
To wrap up this series, Miguel Rojas winds up in left field as his momentum carried him. That was an outstanding play by Miguel Rojas, the shortstop for the Miami Marlins, to seal the deal here in South Florida.
Yelich just was not going to get there.
He was not. I was shocked that he wasn't going to get there. But watch how much ground Rojas covers to get this baseball.
Wow. Smart of Yelich just to ease up on the throttle. Ramos loves it. And that is a heck of a play by Rojas.
Well, their defense has saved them in this series. There's no doubt. Not only tonight they've made some good plays, but also last night he made some good plays. So did their corner men, whoever it is that they have out at third base. Marlins pitchers tonight, 9 innings, 5 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, no runs, as the Marlins defeated the Phils 1-0 despite a strong outing by Alec Asher. Time now for our WB Mason delivery of the game. Well, this guy's got some pop, but he also has some speed for a catcher.
He does. Drive this ball off Alec Asher out to right center. Gets caught up underneath that fence. Derek Dietrich scores all the way from first base. And that's all they needed. It's all the fish needed. That is your WB Mason delivery of the game.
Phillies lose it 1-0. Marlins take 2 of 3 to wrap up the Phillies trip down here in South Florida. We'll be back to wrap things up right after this.